Welcome to Mainland TV, Nelson and Tasman's regional television station. I'm Graham O'Brien, and coming up in this week's news roundup: coastal erosion concerns, protesters question local MP, 20 years and no accountability. Coastal residents of Pakawa and Golden Bay have witnessed more of their properties, including the Coastal Council Reserve Buffer Zone, decimated by weather in recent weeks, as some wonder if council sand push-ups are really the answer. These locals are under pressure as their hands have appeared to be tied by bureaucracy. However, after meeting with Tasman District Council CEO Lindsay McKenzie and Mayor for Tasman Richard Kempthorne earlier this year, the suggestion came for the residents to form an incorporated society. They have since done so, and with $10,000 of donated money, a share of which Council has contributed, they have had an independent engineer's report commissioned. Chrissy Small caught up with Pakawa resident Laurie Jarrett last weekend.
Laurie Jarrett, we're back here at Pakawa. We're here to see what's happening with the erosion problem. Obviously, the push-up hasn't worked. We've been to have a look. It's gone. Now, there are some other developments. Would you like to talk to me about those?
Yeah, sure, Chrissy. The push-up did work to a degree. I think it would have been, to be fair, a lot worse if the push-up wasn't there. However, on the badly affected sections you saw down to the south, the push-up, the first 3 or 4 sections, had actually gone before the storm got here, and that was a result of just high tides eroded away at the sand. Right. But it really did stem a lot of the force out of the first tide, but unfortunately the wind didn't stop at the first tide. It went through to the midday tide next day, where the wind increased, swung to the southeast, the barometric pressure dropped, the sea came up, and it did the damage that you can see. It's pretty devastating.
Now, the residents here are all concerned. You've formed an organisation, I believe.
Yes. We had a discussion with Lindsay McKenzie and Richard Kempthorne, which was very fruitful, and it became obvious we needed to form ourselves into an incorporated society, and under the umbrella of Warwick Heel, the lawyer, we did that with Warwick's help, and it's the Pakawa Community Residents Association Incorporated. We have in excess of 60 members currently, and there's still people joining.
Right, so this is because they're not happy with what's being done. Is there a general feeling of inaction by council over the problem?
Well, council didn't seem to really want to deal with just individuals, and I think it's an accepted practice to deal with a group. So we did. We formed ourselves into that group, and I think we're now engaged in some fairly constructive discussions with council. And part of that was to employ or commission a qualified coastal engineer to make a full assessment of the beach, right along the whole beach.
Right. Now, I believe you've been talking to the engineer yourself, and you were here when he went through and took his measurements and had a look at everything.
Yes, he needed someone that knew a little bit about the history of what had been done, and I appeared to be it. And so, yes, I did accompany him, and he did a pretty thorough GPS survey. We have a draft copy of that, but it would not be proper to reveal that at this stage, because people that have contributed to the cost of this engineer have not seen the report, and neither has our committee, so that just remains under wraps, I'm afraid.
Right. Okay, so, but from your own discussions with the engineer before the report came through, what do you think his opinion was?
Well, council staff were fairly keen on the residents contributing some money towards a further push-up. So they asked me, the residents asked me to contact the engineer for his advice, and his advice was that, in his opinion, it wasn't a cost-effective method, and unless there was an imminent storm, then he would advise not putting any more money into that method.
Right. Okay, so the report has come out. The committee will meet and discuss the report findings. What's the next stage from there?
Well, it'll be up to the committee to discuss what happens next. We will need a discussion with all the affected residents once we get the final copy from the engineer, and he's given us a way forward, and we will need to discuss that with them and then formulate a plan. We will go back to Lindsay and Richard and see if we can come to an arrangement.
An Occupy protest was made in Nelson against the latest round of TPP negotiations held in Atlanta last weekend. A group of around 50 protesters met with Nelson's MP Nick Smith to make two demands: that the TPP document be brought back to New Zealand unsigned, and that there be no clause that allows the New Zealand government to be sued by overseas investors. Nick Smith has been asked to debate the benefits of the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, and we are currently awaiting a response to this request.
The question is, does every National MP agree with everything that's in the TPP? The answer is, we don't know what's in the final TPP.
Oh, exactly!
It's still in negotiation.
The government is talking about giving builders the power to sign off on their own building work to cut RMA costs. We caught up with one elderly Golden Bay pensioner, Reg Cooper, who has been seeking accountability for the situation he has found himself in 20 years after a dodgy Collingwood builder and some less than appropriate site earthworks by Tasman District Council were all signed off by Tasman Council, which have now left him living in a house which has started to subside. Chrissy Small caught up with 91-year-old Reg at his house.
I'm here with Reg Cooper. We're in a beautiful area of Golden Bay. Now, Reg, you've got views that go across to Pahara here.
It's magnificent. Beautiful, beautiful view. You know, it's really a bit of paradise. It's fantastic.
It is. Now, look, you've been here for what, 20 years?
Just over 20 years. I came here in 1993, 94 when the house was built.
Right, so you've had the house built.
In 1994, it finished, yeah.
Right. Okay, who built it?
It was built by Versatile Homes, but the local builder actually did the work.
Was he a master builder?
No, I don't think so. No, he wasn't a master builder at all.
But
no.
he was selling his services as a proper bona fide builder.
Oh, that's right. Yes, I mean, he's supposed to be a builder as far as I was concerned, you know, and that was it. I mean, I engaged him because through Versatile Homes, I engaged him to fix the house.
So he was the builder for Versatile at the time?
Yeah, that's right. Well, Versatile was called Profile Homes in those days, but it's the same firm. Yeah.
Okay, so then of course, as we all know, the local council has a building inspector. He signs off everything as it goes. Was this all signed off?
Oh, it was all signed off, and I signed it off too as well. So there was, issue a compliance certificate, which seems to be, I never received a compliance certificate, but they issued two further compliance certificates for extensions onto the house, so obviously the compliance certificate should have been there somewhere, but they've all been taken off now because we now have a determination from the Building and Housing Authority, and this is forcing the council now to take them all off. And
so in a sense they're admitting their mistakes, but they're...
Oh yes, but the trouble is they're trying to get out of it again. They tried to get me now. It's a bit of a game they play. I'm now trying to get me to sign what they call a certificate of acceptance, and the certificate of acceptance is accepting liability for what they've done.
Oh dear.
And I won't sign it, of course.
That's a no-win situation for
right.
you.
It's been a no-win situation. They lie all the time, of course, and they won't accept their responsibility, which is to do the site work and fix the house, full stop.
Now, when did you first find out that you had problems with the house?
Well, it was probably about 18 months after it was built, and I had written to them to the Versatile regarding the cladding hadn't been put on quite right, but it wasn't that. When my partner got a bit fed up, because I had a partner in those days, she said she'd had enough, and so she left. And of course I had to then see a lawyer, and he suggested that I get it valued, the place valued. It was then when I got the chap down to value it that he said, the roof doesn't comply. Then he suggested I get in somebody else, and I had to get in a civil engineer and geotechnical engineers, and they all looked at it and said, the foundations don't comply, the site work doesn't comply, nothing complies. So, I sent all this to the council, and they said, the house is only fit for salvage.
So they took no responsibility for the fact that their building inspector had cited everything as it was being done,
Yeah.
signed off on it,
Yeah.
And now they want you to take full
That's
responsibility.
right. They've been trying to get me for 20 years. So the word is entrapment. They tried to get me to sign a legal document earlier on, which I refused. They now want me to try and sign this so-called certificate of acceptance, which I've refused, of course. All these things are to get me to take liability off of them.
Now, Reg, when you started this house, you were what, around 70?
69.
69. So you wanted to retire in peace.
Well, I'd love to have retired, but unfortunately this has been a battle. It's not the stress factor, to be honest with you, has been absolutely incredible.
How's your health been?
Well, I've had cancer, of course, earlier on over this, and I'm sure the major contributing factor was the stress. And then I had a major operation for cancer and chemotherapy for quite a few months. And then 3 years later, I had a heart attack and I had to go and have a triple bypass. I just recently now, about a month ago, I had another heart attack, but it's all the stress that has been pushed onto me. This is no game, this is something that I don't want.
Have Versatile accepted any liability or responsibility?
Initially they said that because I had a contract which stated that anything wrong with the house I'd have fixed free of charge, and I had a contract with them. But over the years they said they would do it, but they've suddenly reneged and gone with the council, and now they have sort of disappeared out of it altogether.
What about the builder who did this initial building?
He's retired now. And he hasn't done anything at all, of course. He lives in Collingwood.
Right.
So, but it's all to do with the council. I mean, the council are responsible for the whole lot. All they have to do is to fix the site work. And of course, if they fix the site work, then they're responsible for the house. They have to demolish it or whatever, because you can't dig the site work up and the foundations without getting rid of the house. And you can't lift it because we've had people over here just say, well, can we move the house? And they've refused because it's so badly built. If they tried to lift it, it would probably collapse. They won't take responsibility.
So basically you're living in a worthless, dangerous building.
Well, I wouldn't, because I don't really know the situation. It's not rated now, of course. There's no rates on it at all. I assume that it's got Staphylococcus. This is one of the problems, this fungus that comes through the roof. And it's now starting to show itself on the wall. And of course this is quite a dangerous fungus. And,
so you're living in this condition and you've got no choice because, are you a rich man, Reg?
No, they've taken all my money, most of it, I've got some back in the bank now, saving as much as I can. But over the years it's cost me a fortune. I mean, lawyer after lawyer, and I'm not very happy with the legal profession, to be perfectly frank with you. There is something else which I think you should know, that some years ago I ran out of money talking about being rich, and I had to go and get legal aid. And after 2 years of this legal aid backwards and forwards with the lawyer, I was told that I had to sign this agreement. They said, you can't go to court, you have to sign an agreement. And when I didn't realise what the agreement was, I'd never even seen it. When they presented it to me and when I read it, I thought, God, I can't accept this. This is a joke. What they wanted to do was they put a lien on the property.
Right, okay.
So the government now have controlled my property. So, because I can't sell it without paying back this so-called mortgage or lien.
So you can't afford to leave, you can't afford to rebuild, you can't afford to do anything. So you consequently are living in a sick house.
Yeah.
And no one's helping you. Is that what's going on?
So, but that's right. That's spot on there. It's the council's responsibility to do this, and they've been duck shoving for the last 20 years. They should be ashamed of themselves, frankly.
So this is a warning to everybody to make sure that, well, what can you do? You think you're employing someone who's a bona fide builder.
Well, that's right.
And you think you're protected by council who's sending their men in to oversee it and sign off on it. And basically it's not worth the paper it's written on.
I mean, the trouble is, there are people out there who think, I'm just on my own. But I would tell people to be very, very careful. If it's happened to me, it can happen to anybody else out there.
It could be happening to them right now and they don't know it.
They wouldn't know it.
If you hadn't had that man go up into your roof.
That's right. If my partner hadn't left the family home and everything had been different, I would never have known. Never have known. It's only the fact that when she left the home, I had to get it valued. And once the guy came in to value it, that was it. You know.
So, Reg, where do things stand right now? Is there any action by council to help you?
Oh, the council have done nothing at all. What the council have tried to do is get me to sign the certificate of acceptance, and they've even been offered to bodge up the house. Don't touch the foundations. They've written and said, they'll look at the foundations in 10 years' time. I've got it all in writing.
And you'll be what age by then?
About 102. 101.
TDC Environment and Planning Manager Dennis Bush-King, who has been dealing with the situation, wouldn't talk to camera, but has said that Council acknowledges that Mr Cooper is currently living in an unauthorised dwelling. Council also acknowledges, as it always has, that there are some features of the work that need to be remediated, but also acknowledges that given the passage of time, some of the defects, as stated in the 2010 judgment, have arisen from Mr Cooper's own actions or inactions. Dennis Bush-King said Council's last attempt to resolve the matter was in December 2013, when the Council offered to fund an independent assessment of the work needed and indicated a willingness to part fund the repair work to achieve that. The offer was rejected because Mr Cooper wanted a total rebuild. The Council has a responsibility to all ratepayers to defend itself when subject to legal claims, and has at all times acted on legal and technical advice in an attempt to appropriately resolve these issues. Mainland News is following this story, and we will bring you more. A new community group, Voice Nelson, has recently put out a survey of rental accommodation standards and costs within the Nelson City area. I spoke with Raven Boss about these survey results. Raven, could you tell us some of the results of the survey?
Okay, well, we sent out a survey to the parts of Nelson where we knew there was considerable rental properties, and the results were followed some of the anecdotal information that we had. Like, over half of the people responding pay more than 50% for their rent each week, and 30% don't use any winter heating, even if there is heating available, because of this is a cost issue. Some of the rental properties didn't supply any heating, but most had some kind of heating available. Most of the rentals, 82% in fact, of the surveyed rentals are privately owned rather than Housing New Zealand or any of the big agencies. So there's a real variety of ownership sort of thing. We didn't specifically ask who owned them, but they're privately owned. But 63% of the people who responded are concerned to some extent about having to move. So that was the kind of frame of the survey. We didn't ask every question you could think of, but we tried to get a bit of a picture of how things are.
Sure, and I mean it really points to that people are fairly unsettled in their life, and it's pretty hard to get ahead when they're paying that much in their rent.
Yeah. The issue quickly looks bigger than just renting. The issue is around the standard of rentals, the amount of money people are paying, and also this idea that we still seem to have that renting is temporary and isn't going to go on for very long. People find it hard sometimes to get a rental agreement longer than a year or maybe 2 years. So I think this has been documented by others as well, that affects families, they have to move, etc. So we've got this idea still that people just rent while they're looking for a house, or they rent while they're studying, but I think that hasn't been true for quite a while now, and we need to change our attitude towards that and provide long-term decent renting with a bottom line standard of housing. That's kind of what we sort of started off thinking that, and we've ended up thinking that.
And was there anything in the survey about actually the standard of the house?
Yes, we asked about dampness. That's a biggie. Not everybody was living in a damp house by any means, but a number of people were. It's a hard one to gauge from an answer in in a rental. We did ask if there were dampness issues, whether there was heating issues, and security issues and things like that. And people gave various answers. Yes, it's a bit damp in winter too. Yes, there's mould in the corners. So there was a range. Yeah.
And Raven, how did you actually get these people to participate in the survey? Obviously not that many people want to speak out, I should imagine.
No. What we did was we developed a little survey. We tried to make it simple and straightforward, and we basically delivered it to areas in Nelson where we know there's rental housing. So we delivered it around Victory, around the South Nelson area, to Hunanui, the Brook, and actually in the Wood. So it was a kind of like a, well, let's see what happens when we send this out. And we did some knocking on doors and asking people if they'd like to take part. When we didn't do that, we left it in their letterbox, and we left instructions about dropping the survey nearby where we had a. So people could. So it was a bit hit and miss, like all surveys, I guess. But it was just to sort of get a bit of a gauge. Are we, what is the concern out there, or is it just us thinking this? And most people responded to the survey anonymously, but a number responded with their name and phone number saying, we're happy to talk to you. Most people didn't want to be identified. A few were prepared to.
And Raven, now that you've got these results from this survey, what are you going to do with them? Are you taking them to the Minister of Housing, our MP Nick Smith?
That is one of the things we would like to do. We would like to be part of a dialogue that we think really does need to happen around housing issues. And when we say housing, it very quickly becomes more than housing. It's, it's money, it's availability, it goes on and on. But talking just about the housing issue, we would like, the local MP is one of the housing ministers. We think they should be concerned, and we think, without getting into any discussion about about nanny state or anything like that, we think there should be some bottom lines around what's allowable to rent. So yes, we will be. This is part of information that we've been compiling and discussions we've been having. So we want to take it forward to see where it can go. It needs to go somewhere.
And you're basically talking about whether the house is habitable to live in.
Yes. It's of concern that we don't seem to have a bottom line standard of rentals, because some of the rentals and some of the other group parties in the Voice Nelson housing group have actually been to talk to people who are living in basically slums, where there's damp, where there's mould, where there's stuff growing, where there's broken bits, where there's windows that are not watertight or airtight, or where there's roofs leaking. So that's not okay. We think our standard should be above that.
Holiday activities have hit the region, and again the Richmond Mall is geared up for the kids, providing a space and place for the kids to experience some fun and food preparation. I caught up with some of the action at the mall this week. Wow guys, your pizzas look pretty fantastic here. What was it like making these?
Fun and enjoying.
Yeah, right. And how about the big guy over here?
Yeah, even though I'm too old to make it, it's great helping the cousins.
Oh, okay. And how about the girls? How do you feel?
I can't wait to see what it looks like.
And how about you? What do you think about your pizza?
I think it's really cool.
Very good. And you can't wait to eat them?
Yeah.
Harry, what was it like making your own pizzas?
Awesome. And it was so cool because the ladies were really helpful, and they helped us make our own pizzas.
And you think this is a highlight of your school holidays?
Yeah, totally.
Great, well it'll look good once it's cooked up.
Yummy, delicious. Can't wait to taste it.
Sky, do you think this is the most fun you've had in the holidays?
Yeah, totally.
And are you from Nelson?
No, I'm from Titahi Bay in Wellington.
Ah, so you just come down for your holidays and you're making pizza?
Yeah, it's the most fun bit about it.
Excellent. All right, well, we'll let you go and get them cooked up and so we can eat them.
Yep, that will be fun.
Okay. Should I come back and find you once they're cooked?
Yeah.
Thanks very much. Well done.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so it's a pretty busy time for mums over the holiday period. What do you think about this for an activity?
I think it's awesome, especially because it's free and they get to be creative and eat it later and watch it cooking at Pizza Hut. It's great.
You sort of kill two birds with one stone there, don't you? You get to make it and you get to eat it.
Exactly, but they have to share it with their brothers and sisters when we get home.
Hey, thanks very much.
Thank you.
After the break, we'll bring you the latest weather update and some events and happenings coming up from around the region.
Edward Gibbon, the bathroom specialist, have a great range of bathroom ideas at their showroom at 23 McGlashan Ave in Richmond. Call in and check out some of the latest bathroom designs and fittings. Edward Gibbon, the bathroom plumbing and drainage supply specialist, 23 McGlashan Ave, Richmond.
Why would you want to pay as much as $1,000 for a single bed mattress when you can buy a high quality locally made mattress like this for as little as $220? And a queen size mattress could cost you in excess of $3,000, but at Nelson Beds you could have a mattress like this as low as $425. So why would you go out and spend a fortune on your child's bedroom when you can come to Nelson Beds and buy a complete single mattress and base set, a 7-drawer Scotch chest, a headboard and a 3-drawer bedside cabinet for as little as $979? So call and discuss our custom manufacturing options and local after sales service at Nelson Beds, Nelson's only bedding manufacturer.
I'm Francis from Nelson Auto Glass. We repair all auto glass, stone chips, windscreen replacements, scratch removal.
If you have an auto glass issue, our team will sort it.
Nelson Auto Glass Specialist, 84 Vanguard Street, Nelson.
Welcome to Smugglers Pub and Cafe, open 7 days a week with free parking all day. Our lunch menus have that fat old-fashioned flavour where we treat you like treasure with the food you'll savour.
We cater for children, grannies and granddads too, with special rates and privileges given to the elderly lunchtime crew. Our staff are friendly and kind and want to see you all come back time after time.
Daytime or evening, it doesn't matter. Give us a call on 546 4084 and we'll be happy to spoil ya.
We're the team at JCar, right here in Nelson, 120 Hardy Street. Our shop is full of electronic items,
including security alarm systems, electronic components,
solar and power,
electronics toys,
sound systems, cables, and much, much more.
JCar. 120 Hardy Street, Nelson.
Sit and Be Fit is on at the Victory Community Centre Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 a.m. at the Victory Community Church, 238 Upper Vanguard Street. School terms only. Fun while you get fitter, work at your level. On behalf of the team here at Mainland Television News, thank you for joining us.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.